17. It's my second Christmas in Los Angeles, and Max Sennett is having his big holiday party at the studio. I was enjoying a hearty glass of spiked punch when Caroline Foster, a curvaceous redhead from Baltimore and one of Max's bathing beauties, comes over and starts flirting with me. Now you have to remember that I was still kind of a novice with the ladies, and this was a few months after the infamous Ben Turpin Serbian pimp incident, which is another story for another time, and I was still kind of skittish about this sort of thing. When she said that she wanted somebody to pluck her sugar plums, it took me a full minute to realize that she was talking about her vagina. However, she gave my butt a hearty squeeze, and I knew where she was going, and I wanted to go there too. So we get back to her place. She puts on a record, something classical, I think. She then starts unbuttoning my shirt, and she asks me if I'm still a virgin. And because I don't have the wit to lie, I say yes. She then leans in, licks my ear, and says in a whisper, "Don't worry, I like my apples a little green." I don't need to tell you what happened next. We're all adults. There was some fondling, some kissing, some penetrating, folding tab A into slot B. I had a chance to get into slot C, but I didn't want to push my luck. Anyway, afterwards we're lying in bed together, completely satiated, enveloped in a pink cloud of joy. A cloud that is quickly dissipated when her husband bursts in. 6'4", barrel-chested, hands large enough to rip apart a phone book, and a look in his eye that had me seeing my own tombstone. He sees us and he lets out with a mighty roar, "You started without me!" Caroline glares at him and says, "You're a half hour late, and it's been a long week." She then looks at me and says, "My husband likes to watch me get screwed by other guys. You think you got one more in you?" And I say, "Well, I don't think so." She then slides a finger up my butthole, and suddenly I'm back in business. Anyway, we go at it again, and this time she's yelling at her husband, "You see this, you crumb bum? This scrawny kid's more of a man than you'll ever be." And he's sitting in the corner, and he's crying, and he's nodding, and he's having a grand old time. And this was my introduction to the concept of kink. Anyway, even though her husband turned out to be kind of a good egg, the whole episode left me kind of uncomfortable, and any time she tried to get me to come up for another tryst, I had to beg off. Fortunately, they ended up having to move back to Baltimore due to a family illness, and I was off the hook. Years later, I'm having lunch with John Huston. He's in the middle of divorcing his third wife, so the subject of marriage is in the air, and he asked me how I was able to stay faithful to my wife Beverly. And I responded by telling him this story, and half a dozen others. And I finished by saying, "John, at a certain point in a man's life, monogamy becomes a goddamned relief." John smiles at me and says, "Marty, your lack of adventure may be your saving grace." We then toasted my saving grace and then ordered dessert.